And to be quite honest with you, I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted with Sue Bird.
The WNBA has been through plenty of ups and downs over the years, but nothing compares to the storm that's brewing right now.
This is what we want. Instead, we're still getting bullshit on viewership now.
A storm sparked by a legend, fueled by analysts, and carried straight into the spotlight by one of the most polarizing athletes the league has ever seen. Out of nowhere, Sue Bird, a player celebrated for her leadership, respect, and grace, ignited a fire that set social media ablaze.
What do you mean ESPN? So because I work at my day job on ESPN, I'm supposed to ignore the fact?
The moment she opened her mouth about Caitlin Clark, the entire basketball world took notice. Fans, analysts, even casual viewers who normally wouldn't care about the WNBA finals suddenly found themselves pulled into the drama.
Stephen A. Smith talk about it. I've seen Shannon Sharp talk about it. And that's what I just don't understand is they work for ESPN. So why are you hating on a product that ESPN
that they invest in?
Yeah, that's where these viewership numbers are coming. Yeah, it's a business you're in. It's not that they can't. And by the way, it's not that they can't be critical of certain things. They can have their opinions. But that's where I don't understand the frame.
And the question hanging in the air is simple. Is this league thriving on its own, or is it surviving because of one player? It all began with Sue Bird's comments. Comments that many saw as uncharacteristic, even shocking, from one of the most respected figures in the game. Bird pointed straight at Caitlin Clark when asked about declining playoff ratings and embarrassingly low ticket prices.
See tickets at the Target Center in Minnesota selling for as low as $10.
$10 for...
She didn't mince words, and whether she meant to or not, she essentially implied that the WNBA's recent struggles weren't about the league or its history. They were about Caitlin Clark not being there.
Shannon Sharp starts to talk about the attendance and says, like, basically that Caitlin had the highest attendance in the playoffs, which Caitlin Clark played her first 2 rounds in Connecticut, which only holds roughly 10,000, and they got swept, so they never made it back to Cambridge in Indiana to play a home game. So they absolutely did not have the highest.
A WNBA legend and one of the most well-respected personalities in women's basketball, Sue Bird.
For fans who've watched Bird support Clark's meteoric rise, this felt like a sudden betrayal. How could someone who praised Clark's influence now turn around and cast her as a scapegoat?
There is a Caitlin Clark effect on all of basketball, and especially on women's basketball ratings. Kudos to her. She has elevated an entire sport.
What made this worse is that
viewership.
the numbers told a complicated story. The hype around Clark had been undeniable. Every game she touched brought attention, headlines, and casual fans who'd never tuned in before. But the moment she wasn't there, something changed. Ratings dipped. Tickets were suddenly selling for $10.
With Stephen A. and with Shannon, there's an aspect of them like defending their stances on her. Like, we were right about Caitlin and this is our defense. And I still think there's something twisted there because nobody ever said that Caitlin wasn't going to be a marketing.
And even though arenas looked full, insiders whispered about a different reality. It looked good on the surface, but behind the curtain, cracks were showing. Sue Bird, with her reputation as a voice of reason, decided to address it. But instead of uniting fans, her words poured gasoline on an already raging fire.
Caitlin Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now. Immediately, absolutely.
Like,
the backlash came fast. Stephen A. Smith, never one to back down from a debate, immediately jumped to Clark's defense. He was passionate, even heated, when he pointed out the obvious. Caitlin Clark had brought more attention to women's basketball than anyone in decades. Why is it a bad thing, he asked, for the league to benefit from that? He didn't stop there.
Made people stick around and want to watch the others. A rising tide lifts all boats, which is what we were saying, both Shannon Sharp and myself, when we addressed that issue. Why would you say a quote like that? We work for ESPN? So I'm supposed to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to the facts? That ain't what...
Stephen A. reminded viewers that the NBA itself had leaned heavily on superstars like Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron. Without those icons, the league wouldn't be where it is today. So why, he demanded, was the WNBA suddenly acting like Clark's star power was a liability? Fans clipped the rant and blasted it across Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. One viral post summed it up perfectly. Stephen A. is saying what we're all thinking: Caitlin Clark is the reason people are watching. Own it. He doubled down, saying flat out that without Clark, the WNBA would be struggling to pull even half the numbers it had been boasting earlier. Sharp's words were blunt, maybe even harsher than Stephen A.'s, but they struck a nerve.
You're going to see WNBA playoff viewership down now that Caitlin is out. And is that somewhat factually accurate? Yes. It's not accurate. Viewership numbers with Caitlin Clark are astronomical. She is a big draw. Yeah. She brings in all the things. We know this.
Fans who had been suspicious about the league's ticket prices suddenly felt validated. $10 for a playoff ticket? One fan posted, "Don't tell me that's demand. That's desperation." The comment section exploded, with some mocking the league's attempt to cover the cracks, and others defending the players who were still putting their hearts on the court. But no matter which side people took, one name kept coming up: Caitlin Clark. The ticket scandal became its own beast. At first, the headlines proudly declared that arenas were selling out. Social media buzzed with photos of packed stands, smiling fans, and record crowds. But it didn't take long for the truth to leak out. Fans discovered that playoff tickets were going for less than a fast food meal. "I paid more for parking than my ticket," one fan joked online, racking up thousands of likes. Another added, "I got 4 tickets for the price of 1 NBA beer. That's not growth, that's charity." Suddenly, what looked like triumph was reframed as smoke and mirrors. The league wasn't attracting bigger audiences because interest had skyrocketed. It was because tickets had been slashed to absurdly low prices. And the underlying question was devastating. Would people be showing up if Caitlin Clark was still playing? Everyone knew the answer, even if the league didn't want to admit it.
And to imply that we should just ignore the impact that Caitlin Clark had on this team, this league, this sport. Nah, it doesn't work that way.
This is where the drama got personal. Sue Bird wasn't just annoyed at Stephen A. or Shannon Sharpe. She was furious at the entire narrative. To her, all the attention being funneled toward Clark felt like an insult to the decades of work players had put in to build the WNBA. Bird's message was clear: the league is bigger than any one star, but the fans weren't buying it. The comparisons to Jordan and LeBron kept flooding in, and one viral TikTok video hammered the point home. If the NBA didn't have superstars, it wouldn't exist. Why are y'all acting brand new when it comes to Caitlin Clark? The clip pulled millions of views, and the comment section was brutal. Sue Bird sounds jealous. She had her time, let Clark shine. This is the same gatekeeping that's been holding women's sports back for years. The criticism didn't stop, and even longtime WNBA fans found themselves split. Adding to the chaos, Cheryl Swoops, another legend of the game, tossed her own opinions into the mix, and instead of calming things down, she only added fuel to the fire. Swoops has been back and forth on Clark for months, praising her skill one moment, questioning her influence the next. For many fans, this flip-flopping felt like more proof that the old guard was struggling to deal with Clark's meteoric rise. The optics weren't great. Instead of legends lifting up the next generation, it looked like they were trying to clip her wings. And fans noticed. "Why do the legends always hate when a new star shines?" one comment read. "LeBron never got this from Jordan, but Caitlin's getting it from everyone." That single comment racked up thousands of likes, showing just how deep the frustration ran. Meanwhile, Clark herself stayed silent. She didn't clap back, didn't post cryptic tweets, didn't feed the drama. She just kept playing, letting her performance speak louder than anything Sue Bird or Shannon Sharpe could say. And that silence, it only made her look stronger. Fans rallied around her, praising her focus and resilience. "They hate her because she's popular and good," one tweet read. Another fan summed it up perfectly. "Caitlin Clark is doing more for women's basketball by existing than the WNBA has done in decades. That's why they're mad." Her ability to rise above the noise turned her into not just a star, but a symbol. And every time she hit the court, the narrative only grew. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The WNBA has an identity crisis. On one hand, it wants to prove that the league is sustainable, that it can thrive on teamwork and collective effort. On the other, all the numbers, all the headlines, and all the fans are pointing to one reality. Caitlin Clark is the engine driving this train. Without her, viewership tanks. Without her, tickets are dirt cheap. Without her, people aren't tuning in. And no amount of motivational speeches can hide that. Sue Bird knows this. The legends know this. The league knows this. That's why the tension is boiling. If they lean too hard on Clark, they risk looking dependent. If they downplay her impact, they risk alienating the very fans she brought in. It's a lose-lose situation, and every week the pressure grows. What makes this even wilder is how history keeps repeating itself. Every major sports league has leaned on its stars. The NBA wasn't carried by balance and teamwork. It was carried by the spectacle of icons. The NFL wasn't built on collective parity. It exploded because of larger-than-life players. And now the WNBA has its own unicorn, a once-in-a-generation talent who attracts attention like a magnet. But instead of embracing her, too many voices inside the league seem terrified of what it means. Maybe it's jealousy. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's insecurity about the league's ability to stand without her. Whatever it is, the result is the same. Drama, division, and fans picking sides. And if you want to talk about sides, look no further than social media. The debate has consumed Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Everywhere you look, people are arguing. One viral thread declared, "Sue Bird owes Caitlin Clark an apology. Without her, no one's even talking about the WNBA right now." Another fired back, This league is bigger than Caitlin Clark. Stop acting like she's the savior. Thousands of replies piled up, some savage, some thoughtful, all proving one thing: people care. And that's the ultimate irony. The very drama that Sue Bird tried to shut down only made Caitlin Clark's influence even bigger. The controversy didn't dim her spotlight, it supercharged it. So where does this all go? The WNBA is at a crossroads. Embrace Caitlin Clark fully and risk being seen as dependent on a single player. Push back against her and risk alienating the massive wave of new fans she's brought in. Sue Bird wants the league to thrive beyond one star, but Stephen A. and Shannon Sharpe aren't wrong either. The numbers don't lie. The ticket prices don't lie. The ratings don't lie. This league without Clark just isn't the same. And the longer the legends fight it, the bigger the backlash becomes. Ronark, at the end of the day, Caitlin Clark isn't just playing basketball. She's carrying the future of the WNBA on her shoulders. And the way people react to her, whether it's admiration, jealousy, or outright hostility, says more about the league than it does about her. She's done nothing but elevate the game, and yet she's the one catching strays. That's not just unfair, it's revealing. Because the truth is, Caitlin Clark has the potential to do for women's basketball what Jordan did for the NBA. And right now, the only question left is whether the WNBA is brave enough to let her. So what do you think? Is Sue Bird right to push back against the Caitlin Clark narrative, or are Stephen A. and Shannon Sharpe right to call out the league's dependence on her star power? Drop your thoughts below, because this fight is far from over. And trust me, the next chapter will be even crazier.